Hi, I'm Jen from Windward Blooms, and today I'm going to show you how to make one of these chicken wire grapevine wreaths chock full of wood flowers. Let's get started. So first thing you're going to need to make sure you have are your flowers, any fun fillers that you want to add, your base greenery, your wreath, wire cutters of any kind, a hot glue gun, of course your wires, and extra hot glue. And then you will need either twine, flexible wire, or zip ties. And zip ties are my favorite, although I don't have them in front of me for this video today. So I'm going to tell you how to use the zip ties and show you with the wire as well. So the first thing you want to do is figure out how you want the greenery to go on your wreath. And there's a couple different ways you can do this. So once you take off the tags, the way that you might have seen advertised in my kit and in the sample I just showed you is to actually create one piece that goes straight across your wreath like this. But you can also bend these wires and create a little bit of a U shape like this. And then they can come together here, and it could either be at the bottom of your wreath, it could be sort of a side swag, and you could even not have it be quite so curved. Maybe you want your side swag to kind of jut out of your wreath a little bit, like that. Whatever way you want to do it. You could even bring yours together in the center, create a little bend on each side, and almost, if you mix the greenery up, make it like a bouquet in the center, trim your wires, and do it something like this as well. So once you pick which way you are going to attach this to your wreath, that's the next step that we're going to do. So let me show you. So I'm going to create mine much like I did in my sample with the swag going across the center. And you can trim these shorter. They're pretty thick because it's a lot of wires put together. So one thing I really love to do is sort of intertwine these together, figure out about how far apart I want them. It's important, I want you to leave a little space in the center. You'll be able to pull some of these pieces off if it feels too fluffy, but you don't want them too far apart because then there's not going to be any greenery there. So once I kind of figure that out, I want to estimate about where I want it to be on my wreath. Once I got that, I'm going to take one piece off, and you are going to thread this through kind of where you want it. Once you get it there, I like to bend it and bring it up through one of the pieces here. So you see it's kind of locked into place. It's not solid. I'm going to want to wire this afterwards, but I want to get both pieces on first and make sure it's really where I want it. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I kind of know where I want it to start, so I see where it needs to go in. And I like to do these pretty much like side by side, maybe not in the same exact piece of the chicken wire. And the chicken wire is a little flexible too, so you can bend that as you need to. And then I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to slide it in on this side. So I'm just bending so that it goes right through. And whoop, there we go. And then I'm going to want to make any adjustments here, so I can still move this forward and back so that it kind of goes right where I want. Once you've got your center spot and you feel like that's good, you're going to want to take your zip tie and go down and around, and then, or up and through, however you want. Pull that zip tie through and tighten it as much as you can. If you're using twine, if you're using bind wire or flexible wire like this, you're going to do basically the same thing. So I'm going to go up on one side here. I'm going to go down right on the other side, and you want to stay pretty close. You don't want a lot of extra space here. And I like to flip mine over. Honestly, you could do this on, like if you're zip tying, you can zip tie on the other side. You're going to cover it with flowers anyway. So I'm going to pull as tight as I can, whether it's a zip tie or wire or twine, and twist and tie that off so it's really, really, really snug. You're going to want to trim the excess of your zip tie once you've got it in, and same thing with your wire as well. And then I just fold it back because I don't want to have any scratchy pieces on the back where it might hit my wall. And you'll see I also gave some felt that you could put on the back afterwards as well. So that's pretty secure, but I still want to kind of get these ends here because I don't want them going all over the place. So same thing, zip tie or wire. So once you've got this, you have got your base completely done. And you have some choices. You may want to just keep all your greenery like it is. You may want to pull out even your berries. Maybe you don't want them in here. Maybe you do. A spot in the center, and it could look pretty devoid of greenery, but I can fluff it so that it isn't. I can also take any of these pieces, for example, and pull a whole triad off, and you can put it right back on that little stem, but facing in the opposite direction so that it fills the center a little bit more. So if you do want some more greenery sticking in there, that's one way to do it as well. And then you can also put some of this greenery even right on like one of the stems for your flowers. So you can decide now. I like to do a little bit of placement. So for sure, you have a center flower, a zinnia, and two smaller zinnias. And this is very much designed to be the center. So I like to start with that and then kind of just do some placement. And I don't know how long I need to make my wires to sort of fit everything in here. So for now, I'm just kind of placing them farther out. You can go with being symmetrical. You can change that up, totally up to you. And as you get farther out in the wreath, you may realize there's just a lot of greenery and you want to do less. So then I'm going to come in with my next big flower. And for me, if I'm going to keep it symmetrical, this is the time to make sure you do that. If you're going to go with a more asymmetrical design, this is your chance to play. So I have this leaf I really like here. I don't want to lose it by burying it in my flower. So I'm actually going to cut this leaf right off because I like it too much. And I'm going to wind up gluing it back in where you can see it a little bit right here. Oh, that's a perfect spot. Sometimes I'll stand up and look at it and make sure how I like it, like at different angles, like I said, it's not exactly, like it can look good from one angle and sometimes you move it around, you're like, ooh, I don't like that. And then I've still got some blue flowers here. So part of me is wanting maybe to bring a little bit more into the center so it's not so off there. Creating just a little bit of different movement with my flowers. And then I'm probably gonna throw these little blue guys more towards the end, I'm thinking. Yeah, so I've kind of got a design I like, and you know what? You can also decide that you don't even want to use all the flowers and you could save some for something else as well. So when I've got your basic design, now's the tricky spot. Take a picture of it with your cell phone. That way when you move everything off, you remember how you wanted it to look. And if you're doing it outside and the wind blows, no big deal. And then you can try to move pieces off sort of in the order that you're planning to put them in. Sometimes that works better than other times. So just depend on the amount of space that you have. There we go. But I do know for sure I'm starting with this nice center piece here and the leaf that I have to glue on. So hopefully now we're good. So I am going to sort of be using the wreath to glue these. So I'm going to put a piece of the wire right in here. And you have some choices. You can actually cut that wire in half and glue two pieces if you want. And it creates almost like a little bobby pin or a hairpin. And you can slide that then right through your wreath. I like to add a little extra glue on the bottom. That way I know for sure it's going to stick no matter what. Can you just glue this straight to this? Absolutely. There is no rule that says you have to even wire these. If you want to, you can choose to just glue them. So I am bending this wire around the back, being really careful not to smush it on the table when I do this. So I keep it lifted around the angle. And I've bent it on the back. I've got it here. I've got some glue underneath. You can always add some more glue as well. And then I know that I want this little leaf right in this area. So I'm going to add some glue and slide that right in. Nice. So now we're going to keep going, adding in. So I like to make sure that I lift up some of my pieces of greenery too. And I decide, like, do I want this one here? Is this a piece that I want to cut? Do I want it to be down below? And you can do the same thing, 2 wires. You can do 1 wire. I'm going to show you 1 wire with this blue guy here. So put my wire in. So I just do a dab of glue on the back. I'm going to push that in just about, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch or so. It doesn't have to be too long. And then I can decide later if I want to cut this wire a little shorter. So I'm going to just slide this in right through the wires. Also between a piece of greenery here. And on the back, I've got it pulled through. I can carefully flip it over, bend my wire, and drop it just like that, right? Make sure it's right where I want it. Yeah. Bend my wire and kind of come right back through the other side of the wreath. So this is another option for how you could do this. If your wreath feels pretty secure and you don't need this much wiring of your flower, you've got like a good spot that you can really glue it to, then go for gluing it. I just like to make sure that with my wires that come through, I either bend them or trim them a little shorter. It depends if you're going to be able to hide that wire. You don't want too much extra wires in there. So pretty secure, not going anywhere. So you're going to continue on with your wreath in this manner. So if you like the idea of a single wire, keep going. If you want to keep going with the idea of 2 wires, cut your wires in half and pull them through. And if you think you just want to glue, go for it. I know this one's pretty long, so I'm already going to trim it. And I want this at an angle, so I'm going to bend my wire. I'm going to sneak it in right down here. I can already see where I want to bend it on the back side. There's so many holes in the chicken wire. It's awesome because it's really easy to work through there. So on the back side, you can see I'm just bending the wires, and I've given you some felt that you can cover that with later. So you're going to continue gluing all your flowers in and doing all that fun stuff, and then up next is going to be the fillers. Alright, so I've got the base of my wreath done with my flowers, wired on the back side. I've even glued the little guys on the end straight too. I've chopped off a few pieces, and now I get to put my fillers in. So you can use preserved baby's breath, you can use faux fillers, whatever you've got around your house, whatever you like. And what I do is just kind of slide these in, add a little glue. If there's a spot in the back you can glue it to, you can go after it and add a little bit. Usually it'll grab onto some leaves. And what you want to do is truly just fill. Look for spots that have gaps. Look for spots that need a little pop of the color. All that good stuff, just to add a little bit more to your wreath. It's a great time to still like edit if you think there's too much greenery in there. And then I really like to pull pieces apart. So I don't want to use a full bunch like this. I like to use little tiny pieces of things. Just gluing onto the end and popping into my wreath is sort of the way I love to do it. I think it's a good chance for you to play around and add a pop of color, an accent color, something that is different, doesn't have to be exactly the same color, and come at it from like different angles and just sort of play with those little pops. So as you can see here, I'm not gluing mine right now. I like to, again, just play and make sure I like my design first, but you can also just glue and go at the same time. So with whatever filler you want to use, find those spaces. I'm a fan of using more than one type of filler, so it's a good opportunity to add more than one color, maybe a complementary color and something that's a pop. That's going to be a little bit different as well. So even just adding that's awesome. I can come back and I can add my berries. So I might pull these apart into smaller pieces as well and add a few of those in. Maybe I don't want it to be very big pieces. Maybe I just like the idea of some smaller pieces of these blueberries poking out from the arrangement. I actually do, because I have the blue flowers in here, so it's really pretty with this little extra bit of blue in here. And this stuff can just be glued right in. It doesn't need to be a lot. It just usually just needs to be a little bit. You can tell if you give it like the shake test, is it going to fall out once everything is dried? And popping these in, I'm probably not going to use all of them. I think I'm just going to do like a little here, a little there. Get the idea. The glue strings will be everywhere. You can always hit those with a hair dryer to sort of make those glue strings go away if you want as well. There we go. All right. So once you've found all the little fillers you want to add nooks and crannies in, your wreath is ready to go. Voila. So super cute. You can hang it this way, that way, change it up however you want. This one has used preserved baby's breath, so you can get the idea of something that gives a fresh element to it. Whichever you choose, I hope you have such a fun time creating your wreath, and I can't wait to see it.